Welcome to Green Fashion Dialogues, the official podcast of the STARS project. I'm Simona Vettore, junior expert in circular economy and your host. STARS is part of the Erasmus Plus program, co-financed by the European Union. In this episode, we are thrilled to welcome Michele De Luca, an expert in facilitated finance, project management, and startup mentorship. Together, we'll dive into another key topic, central to STARS project, how to build a startup. We'll cover foundational concepts like the lean business model, minimum viable product, and the elevator pitch. Beyond that, we'll share insights on developing the right mindset for the journey, staying curious, embracing challenges, cultivating leadership skills, while also remembering the importance of self-care. Let's get started. Welcome, Michele, and thank you for joining us today. Together, we'll explore another crucial topic central to the STARS project, how to build a startup. But before diving in, could you tell us a bit about yourself and your professional background?
Sure. So welcome also to you, Simon, and thank you. Thank you very much to involve me in this process. So excited to be here. Actually, I want to thank you personally because it's a pleasure to me to talk about the startup ecosystem and in general about what the startup is and how to build a startup and how to create something that could add the value, a concrete value to your ecosystem, to your territory, and to your local business also, which is another important thing. Who I am? Well, I'm Michele De Luca. I'm a project developer and project manager with a quite intensive experience in fostering innovative ideas and guiding them towards successful implementation. My journey into startups started in 2017 when I had the chance and the opportunity to join the Cube, which is an important incubator and accelerator of startups here in Apulia region, where I come from. And I start to work with them, developing projects and helping the team of the projects to grow up as a team members, as their own, but also as startup founder, helping them in the funding process and helping them in the construction of the business and their project. One significant milestone in my career with Project School now and before that with the Cube is to help this kind of startups and this kind of team to run up their projects and their startups. And I personally contribute to 80 projects around it, securing about 6.5 million of euros in funding through programs about in the regional level and national level and European level. Beyond the numbers, because it's what is truly important to me. Me personally, I'm so much involved into fostering a culture of curiosity, teamwork, above all, discovery, because I think that these three elements are very, very crucial in whatever you do in your life and whatever you could imagine to do in your life. When you build a startup, it's like that. It's about imagining things and trying to understand how to better realize it. And if you have the right sense of curiosity, the right sense of discovery, and a good team behind you, is something that you could really achieve. If something missing this part, well, maybe you could do it in any way, but it's a bit difficult, So that's it, basically.
Thank you for this introduction. And we will talk about team and all the elements related to useful tools for a good startup later. But first of all, let's start with the basics. Could you explain what a startup is and how it differs from other types of businesses?
Yeah, sure. When you talk about startups, when you think about startup, maybe the first word that comes in your mind is speed, acceleration, or stuff like that. Because a startup basically is an organization designed to innovative and scale rapidly, typically in an environment of, uncertainty, which is another key word. To be a startupper, you have to embrace what is uncertain. You can't, stay just with what is certain because you have to make some change in the ecosystem. You have to create an impact from something that is only in your mind, and you have to let it out of your mind to helping it to get a good relation with the ecosystem you face and you are related with. And you have to help this kind of curiosity, you have to help yourself with this kind of uncertainty, to try to understand what is the best thing to do. Unlike traditional businesses, the focus of startups is on steady growth and profitability, of course. But startups also prioritize agility and experimentation, which are two key points to develop if you are a startup or if you want to be a startup. They often aim to disrupt existing markets or create entirely new ones through innovation. So if you want to run a startup, what you have to, what do you have to do first is try to imagine something new. That is the maybe your first goal, but also your first, treat, because you have to understand that even if innovation is a big word, innovation go through small things. You are not asked to innovate something, to create something from scratch, from zero, but you also understand that being a startupper means also to take what exists and give it a new life. So startups also means be able to create something from what exists, adding some value. For example, for instance, let's look what, for example, Airbnb did. No, Airbnb initially was just an idea of let people rent their own spaces, their own room during busy conferences and during business events. At the beginning was like that. Over time, it became a platform that fundamentally changed totally its initial scope, and now change how people travel and how they find accommodation, scaling into a global brand. Startups means change. So it's not about speed, it's not about acceleration. Yes, it's also about that, but it's also about exploring the change. You have to be ready to change your vision, to change your business model, to adapt it of what the market tells you, what the market asks without asking. Oh, for sure, market never asks proper question, but the market ask, in a way that um, it doesn't use words to ask things. It just puts yourself in front of the reality and just tell you, okay, let's do something. This is the ecosystem you're trying to create a relation by, with. And what you want to do with that, you are able to change your initial vision. Yes, you are a startupper. No, you are not. It's that basically. It's about change. It's about to understand rapidly what is what is happening actually in a single market or in overall global market, and it's about taking some risk, being curious, and being able to change your approach also in order to grow fastly. Yes, but also to face the risk and to recognize them and to try to manage it in a way.
Okay, thank you. So, uh, being capable of seeing change and um, considering new trends or at least creating new trends. This is something that someone that want to create a startup needs to take in mind. From your perspective, what are the key traits or skills that aspiring startup founders need to develop?
Okay, that's a good question actually, because there are a lot a startup needs. But I don't say that just to scare the one who wants to create a startup, but I just say that because it's another so important thing is to uh, never say, okay, I'm enough. Being curious means to search always for new things, for new challenges, and to embrace them without any regret, without any second thoughts. So first of all, curiosity, yes, but also take resilience as a gift. for real, because startups are filled with highs and lows. Always, it's always a kind of this kind of process: hikes, very hikes, and low, very low. But the ability to recover from a setback and keep moving is a crucial. It's a crucial skill that a startupper has to have. Uh, Many successful startups go through this kind of process, face the failure, no, and in a way they embrace the failure and they try to discover the value of a failure, and not as a just something that went wrong and oh no, I'm not able to do anything in my life, I will ruin myself and stuff like that. But it's a learning process. Failing is a learning process. So this is one important thing for real. Just embrace the possibility that you will fail. It's a possibility because you are discovering something new. You are embracing new market size, no, or a new market landscape, and you have to understand that the failing is part of the process. You will fail better in a way if you would try again. No, you don't have to stop yourself when the first thing just went wrong. Uh, and take another road different from the one you imagine, from your idea, from your product, from your service. So adaptability for sure. Another one skill that is recurring, it's so important. Market shifts rapidly. You have to understand that if you want to be a startupper, and you have to understand that founders must be willing to pivot their idea, pivoting the ideas, pivoting the product, pivoting the service is something that happens daily, day by day in the startup ecosystem. And it's happened to everybody. Nespresso pivot their business model, for example, which is the most common example. If you talk about business model canvas, for example, they introduce you the Nespresso business model canvas. Also because the creator of business model canvas, which is something that maybe we'll explore later, uh, test his idea with Espresso, for example. And you have to understand that pivoting or change the scenario is something that is absolutely fair. You're not a man or a woman who fail if you change your first thoughts or your first tries. You're someone who is really understand the importance of being mutable in the market, because the market is mutable. The market is something that change every day, so you have to be ready for that. And then for sure, something very simple to say: vision and leadership are the two important skills. Vision, because you have to be able to see beyond the things, to try to imagine new scenario, and to try to understand the importance of creating something new, and the importance of related um, what you have in your mind with the possible futures that people will face, no, and also leadership, because if you want to be a startupper and if you want to be a leader of a team of people who work on your idea, for example, you have to be a good leader. Being a good leader is something so difficult. You have to be very skilled to do that, but the only thing you can do to try to understand if you are a good leader or not is try. If you don't try to be a good leader, you won't never be a good leader. So it's simple in a way, but it's so difficult in the other way, because our society always tell us that failing is a problem, that you have to approach the job market, or also the startup ecosystem with the winning idea. It's not like that. You can't understand it before trying it. So you have to be a good leader also in that way, motivating your team, let them understand the importance of what you are doing and what you are trying to build. And moving around the innovation ecosystem, which is another important thing in order to have a good vision and to spread your vision to the team first and then to the ecosystem inside overall. And then, yes, for sure, a bit of a financial acumen, because you have to understand numbers, you have to understand how they work, you have to understand the potential of the market you are involved in, but also the risk of the market you are involved in. And so you have also to understand and face the tricky part of being a startupper. So at the first stage, for the first months, or the first year maybe, or the first 2 years, for example, the founders of the startups, most of the time, they didn't earn money. They have to first guarantee money to the team. They first to guarantee money to the people who work with them and who provide them services or products. So this is the first thing they have to understand. You have to understand if you want to run a startup. You have to understand that maybe for the first months, if you're lucky enough or good enough, you won't be able to earn money. But then your vision, your perspective will be able to, pay back your sacrifices, okay, in the first stage. And then, yeah, sure, curiosity, as we said before, but also learning. You have to be a fast learner. Startup is a fast process. You have to be a fast learner because if, as we said before, if things change rapidly, if the market changes rapidly, you have to be able to learn rapidly from the changing of the scenario, for the changing of the changes of the scenario, the changes of the ecosystem you are facing, but also the changing of the stakeholders you are involved in your process, or the customers that are interested in your product or your services, because they change. Their needs change, also their attitude change, and you have to try to understand it, also to anticipate, yes. But if you're not able to anticipate, okay, no worries, you are late, but you are not lost. You can change yourself by learning by this kind of issues, actually, and you could be a better startupper. So yeah.
Sure. Well, being a startupper is a very challenging way of creating a business. So you told us that we need a lot of skills. We need to be fast learner. We need to anticipate trends. And this reminds me of the concept of blue oceans. That is a very economic terms that refers to those space in the market that are not full of firms and companies that are already creating services and products in that specific niche. And we also talked in other podcasts and webinars about design thinking and innovative way of creating ideas. So my question is, do you have any other tool to suggest to someone that want to start to build at least a startup idea, to start in creating an idea with the right path, let's say?
Okay, yeah, a lot of tools actually. But before talking about tools and starting from what you said about the blue ocean, uh, it's an it's a very curious thing that referring to the market, we use blue ocean and red ocean to refer to the market, because what the difference, the visual difference between a blue ocean and red ocean is the presence of the sharks and the presence of the blood. So this is a strong view to have, actually, visually talking, but it's, I think, good representative of the no of the environmental you are in, basically. Because if you are inside this kind of situation, if you are in a market with other actors who play the same role you want to play, some of them could be sharks, and there could be a lot of blood all around, which is something very, very interesting, actually, to understand, because being in a blue ocean could be a great thing because the water is clear, no sharks around. But another an important thing you have to ask yourself is why there are no sharks over here. Because I had the most outstanding idea of the world, and I discovered the most outstanding product or service, and nobody before me think about that. Or maybe the product or the service I have in mind that I want to run with my startups is something that really address only my needs. So another important thing you have to do when you are trying to create something and we're trying to launch startups is to validate not the solution, but the problem you will solve. The most important approach you could have with startups, in my opinion, despite the business model canvas, which is something very, very important, and for example, is a tool you could use to understand the value of your product or your service. the most important thing you could do actually is to relate yourself with the lean model canvas, with the lean startup model, which is based mostly on problem and solution approach. Because if you start from the problem and if you validate the problem, you could be pretty sure, as we saw before, couldn't be sure 100% that what you have in mind, what your product or your service is, address a proper market. And how to do that, how to do the validation part in this sense. You have to understand what is the problem you have identified. You have to be very, very clear and straight with that. And you have to make people aware about the problem. And you have to investigate if people are aware about the same problem you identified or not. Because maybe I could have a problem with, I don't know, I could imagine a problem with related with uh, food delivery, for example, and experiences related with food delivery. And I will love when I order some food when I'm at home or in the office, stuck working 24/7, stuff like that. I want to order food, but also have time to enjoy a kind of a related experience. I don't know, I want to order food and I want to play a game between the time I order the food and the food arrived actually, or no, I want to order food in order to add some value about the waste of the food I won't be able to eat because I ordered too much food, stuff like that. And maybe this is something that arrived in my mind that I could say, oh, it's a fantastic idea. I will run a startup with that and stuff like that. But after that, I start talking with people. I start understand um, that that problem I identify just a problem of Michele, for example, and I have to be honest with myself first, and then with the other people. Just saying that okay, that is not a startup. That is not a business idea because I couldn't be the only customer of my business because I need other customer, other people uh, who had the same problem uh, and who can join tomorrow, who could join tomorrow the solution I want to apply on this problem. So this is another important thing. There are some models, as we said before, business model canvas for sure, but also the one actually suggest most, which is the lean model canvas, which is a simplified model canvas based about a problem solution approach, and also which introduce a new concept which is included in the business model canvas, but is a bit different because in the business model canvas we talk about the value proposition. In what we mean about value proposition, your value proposition is the solution you want to implement, okay, but how this solution create value in the community, in the territory, or to the customers they want to buy it. Okay, the lean model canvas talk about unique value proposition. Adding this simple objective, unique, helps you a lot in identify it because talking about something that is unique, helping you to understand that your own solution, your own product, your own service has to be different from the ones who are already inside the market from and the ones who create the red oceans we talked before. Okay, so if also even if you are in the red ocean with your startup idea, if you find a unique value proposition in that oceans, it's not a problem because even if there are sharks, even if there's a lot of blood inside that area, you will find something new, something different from what there's from what already is from what is already there, and trying to be in a way important for the customers and for the environment you're related with. So this is an important model, I think, and I suggest to use this kind of model invented by Ash Mayura, which is great and simple, even if you are trying for the first time. Also, because the business model can be is a bit complicated if you are without an external help. Maybe you could have a bit of difficulties in facing some specific terms, understand what they actually wanted to know about your business and about your idea. If you're in a first stage trying to be lean, always, that's always, but try to use that kind of model, which simplify the approach actually, and which could help a lot in dealing with this kind of ecosystem. Um, yeah, for example, these two tools are, I think, two of the most useful tools you can use in the first stage.
Okay, thank you. We take notes and we'll try to create our first lean um, business model. Uh, Related to this methodology, there's another concept very important to understand, that is minimum viable product, or MVP. Could you explain this concept a little bit more?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for the question. Also, because I was a former basketball player, and to me, MVP was before starting to get into this startup ecosystem and startup field, was the most valuable player. So when I first heard about MVP related with startups, I say, what? I already knew this. Okay, I would be perfect in doing this. No, I'm joking. It's another actually definition, which, as you said, is minimum valuable product and is a key component of the startup methodology, actually, because the MVP is a stripped down version of the product, basically, that delivers just enough functionality to test the core assumptions. What I meant is not about being perfect, it's about being functional. So it's the leanest version of your product, of your service, that has to show the functionality of it. So when you are trying to, create something new, or anyway launch another product, a new product or a new service, you have to understand the right functionality that that service and that product must have, and have to realize a MVP, a minimum valuable product. And then you can use the minimum valuable product to test your product or your service in order to understand if the market responds well to it. Because before going inside the market with, I don't know, 1,000 or 100,000 of prototypes and stuff like that, you create one of them, 10 of them at least, and try to test them. Involve people, talk with people. Another important and fundamental thing is talk with people. Don't be jealous of your ideas. The worst thing could happen to a startupper is to be jealous of his idea, of her idea. It's something that basically you couldn't do. You couldn't do that. If you're jealous of an idea, you have to understand that idea values is like that, is zero. Because if idea stays idea, they just have no values. You have to try, you have to test them. And the MVP helps you a lot in this process. I could make an example also in this case. Something that came in my mind is Dropbox. I don't know if Dropbox is something that maybe the youngest could understand, but I remember that there was this kind of thing called Dropbox, which is we can say, the father of Google Drive and the maximize uh, documents folders and shared folders, and was launched as an MVP, but it wasn't a functioning software platform actually. Instead, it was a simple explainer video demonstrating how the product would work. Was a totally different thing. And this approach, launching this kind of MVP, allowed Dropbox to gauge interest and secure the early adopters without investing heavily in development upfront. Pivoting this idea, they arrived to the final version of Dropbox, but they start with an MVP that help them to understand what the early adopters, which are the first people who embrace your product or your service, really needs. And this is the most important thing you can do if you're launching a startup, because you have to understand what what the needs of your customers really are actually. But to understand them in the best way, you have to let them test something, and what they could test is your MVP.
Oh, thank you. And also this element, the NDP, is also useful to like start testing your idea, as you said, and also don't let you procrastination and overthinking stop you from launch your idea,
Yeah,
because each moment is precious and you cannot waste time.
absolutely. And overthinking is another issue that startupper has actually, no? Always startupper have this issue because it's when you're starting something new and when you are creating something which is yours in a way, you tend to be perfect, but forget about it. You couldn't be perfect in this case and the other aspect of your life. So you have to launch yourself inside the things and discover how the things going basically. And then you can, make some adjustment, make some changes, but you have to be brave enough if I don't like so much the braveness related to the business. It's not about brave to me. It's about, being curious enough to jump in the water and to see if you're able to swim in a way. But yeah, you have to do that. And you don't have to procrastinate to tend to the perfection because perfection doesn't exist. Make peace with this. Embrace this kind of thing. It does because it's like that.
Mhm. In this case, good is better than perfect. It really echoes that fits perfectly in this case. Mhm.
Absolutely.
And in your experience, what are the other common challenges or mistakes, let's say, you have observed that startup founders face when transitioning from idea to execution?
Well, one for sure is don't trust your team. If you don't trust your team enough, and if you are not able to address then some things to do, if you are not able to delegate something, you won't survive basically because you won't never be able to do it all by yourself. You need a little help from your friends. No, the Beatles sang that in the 60s, and the Beatles were always right. So you had to listen to the Beatles and to understand that where they were right. They saw the future, so you have to trust them. And yeah, don't trust the team is one of them for sure, or maybe not be able, uh, to get enough fund in the first stage. So be able to get fund in the first stage is something very, very important to understand where to find the money basically to launch your ideas, starting from the point that you had to invest by your own always. You couldn't think about, I don't want to invest by my own. I just want to, being able to launch my startups with some external funds. No, forget us about that because if you want to run a startup, you want to create a business, you have to be prepared to invest your own money and to risk your own money. Because if you're not prepared to do that, other people will not be able to do that for sure. Because the idea is yours. If you're not prepared to risk on your ideas, how do you can imagine that other people would be interested to do that? So this is another important thing actually. But also, yeah, validate the problem and not the solution, which is another important thing. But also, another thing that you have to do and another risk that you have to avoid is to be, safe with feel safe with the product or the first version of the product or the first version of the service you implemented and you launch in the market. You're not safe. I mean, it's not about being afraid of what will be tomorrow or being afraid of the future. No, it's not about that. It's about to build the process of continuous learning. You have to learn day by day. You have to be curious to discover new things day by day. If you lost this curiosity, if you lost this will to learn something new, you have a problem actually, and it's a problem that you will pay a lot to see solved because uh, it's important to understand that for real startup ecosystem is thing that move fast, move really, really fast. And if you feel comfortable in a position that you start saying to yourself, okay, I'm comfortable here, I want to move anymore. And my product, my service is perfect, it's great, people needs it. Maybe it's true today, but tomorrow, if you don't, keep yourself with new things, with new also innovative landscapes, go search for it because you need it. You will need it for sure. I'm pretty sure that your idea, that one you have in your mind, in your soul, in your heart, is something that in another place in the world, maybe someone had already developed. And you have to understand how the things that are going over there. Because learning from the others, the mistakes that others people make, actually helped you a lot in don't make them in your landscape, no, in your ecosystem, and it's something that is really really important. Uh, and another thing that can help you a lot is building a support system. So don't be alone in the dark with your idea, with your product. Surround yourself with people who can help to give a value, a concrete value to your product, to your startup. Network of peers, mentors, go find for mentors, go find for advisors, go find people who can help truly to develop your idea. Because this kind of process of exchanging of knowledge is process are incredibly important in every stage of startups. When you became a startupper in the first months, and if even if you are an entrepreneur with several years of experiences, people who just stuck to be surrounded by people just because they think they are owner of a truth, uh, an absolute truth and stuff like that, are not good entrepreneurs. Maybe they were in the past, but they are not anymore. And this is an important thing to understand, because you have to understand how actually you could help yourself by being helped by other people. And it's something that is is something that is has not a single value, has a lot of values, different, because people are different, and the values that they can bring to your organization, to your startups, are different.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So if you want a startupper, you cannot have trust issues and you cannot be jealous of your idea. You need to talk, you need to find people that can help you and support you. But it's not so easy. Building a strong team is often considered one of the most important factors for a startup success, but also the most challenging. So, what are the key qualities that founders should look for when choosing team members?
Well, motivations, for sure. Motivation overall, curiosity, in my opinion, is always the key, and also adaptability. The ability of the people to face different issues, different problems day by day. But also, I think that right now is so difficult to find, because the job market is changing fastly again. Is to find someone who could be loyal to your product, to your startup, to your idea. Well, you must give back the exact value to the people, for sure, the right value. But if you find someone who's loyal to the idea because they love the idea, not as much as you loved it, because it's impossible, it's your idea and it's different. It's difficult to find someone who loved the idea as much as you loved it. But if you find someone who believed in the idea, who believed in the product, and believed in the service, and was able to embrace it totally, as it as if it was his or her idea, his or her product or service, that would be a great added value, because your ability is something very, very important in every aspect of our life. and also in business for sure, because now it's so difficult to find a young man or a young woman who stays in the same, for example, company for 20 years. In the past was different. There was a different approach to the job market. Right now, the job market is very fluid. And so if you find someone in the team, so in the restricted area of the board members, we can say of your startups, your startup is so important. So that, but also people who respect yourself as much as you respect them, which is another important thing. People who share the same values you have, external also to the business, uh, and people who are able to respond to the goals you detect. Actually, if you set clear goals and these goals are perfectly embraced by people, then you find the team basically. If that goals that you clear in the most uh, you can say the most in the clearest way you could at the first stage at the beginning. So if the people embrace these goals and are able to follow you during the process, it's okay. You find the team basically. So these are good, I think, good skills, good characteristics of a team, of startup team.
And if I add some one characteristic that I suggest to look for is positivity, because if someone
Ah, yeah.
starts say no, this thing will never works, okay, we have an issue here.
Yeah. Also because it's a common thing, yeah,
Mhm.
actually. Because as you know, maybe uh, during a startup process, during the first stage of a new product, a new service, and stuff like that, there are a lot of things that are uncertain. And so you have to understand that if you are stuck in a bad mood, it's an issue for real. It's a problem because maybe it's just for yourself, but maybe you can, be, a bad example to the other people who work with you, and this is the worst scenario possible, actually.
Absolutely, yeah. Another elements that is uh, important, crucial, is money. That is, let's say, another team player in this in the construction of a startup. So when it comes to funding a startup, there are several options available, such as venture capital, crowdfunding, and bootstrapping. Could you break down these options and discuss when each might be the best choice for a startup?
Yeah, I will answer you to the most common answer of a consultant. It depends. Because it depends from the ecosystem you're involved in. Because, for example, for me, I'm from Apulia region, which is the region in the south of Italy, and right now Apulia region is actually a good place to create a startup, especially at innovative startups or female startup, because there are a lot of public funds addressed to this kind of startups, to this kind of businesses. This is an important thing because they can help you actually in a great way, in a good way, in the first months of life of a new business, because they give you money without asking you back the money. So the public funds are uh, most of the time, with a good percentage um, of money that you don't have to give back to the region, for example, or to the uh, for example to the state, actually, no, to the national agency of your country. Uh, but also it depends, because if you're not, for example, in Apulia region, but if you are in the region in the north of Italy, they are more connected with the venture capital, so the private funds. So the first thing you have to understand, if you want to run startups in a proper in a specific field, is how this field is how is the perception of this field by the venture capital, by the private funders. So if the private funds are, for example, attracted to your specific field, I know, artificial intelligence or growth hacking or stuff like that, maybe you could try to understand how to approach them. So, for example, about your idea, talk about your startup to an incubator or accelerator of startups, or try to be in touch directly with this kind of funds. But if you are that is possible if you are a startup who already has an a previous history, actually. So the private funding process is a process that regards the startups who has numbers, already numbers. It's difficult for a startup who is launching in the very, very first stage, so in a pre-money stage, we can say, before going to the market and before testing the product or the service to the market and having, uh, some KPIs about sell, uh, about growth percentage during the first 1 or 2 or 3 years, it's difficult to talk with the private funders, so venture capitals, business angels, um, but also private funds in general, also from the bank and other players like that. So in this case, if you are in the first and early stage, considering the public funding, but also, for example, the crowdfunding is something that you could do actually. But you have to understand that crowdfunding process, as well as the public funding process, is a process that not always is mm, have a good combination, as a good combination with the startups way of being fast, because most of the time embrace a crowdfunding platform and trying to launch your product or your service through a crowdfunding platform is a process that asks a lot of time. It's a process that asks a lot of time, months if you are good enough, 1 year if things going in a certain way. But also with public fund is the same. Even if it's convenient in some occasion, it's something that requires time, and you have to be in peace with that. If you understand that and if it's okay for you, so no problem. But you have to understand that you need time, and if you don't have that amount of time, maybe that is not um the most useful way to do this process. And so you have to understand how is the fastest way in which you can earn the first money to launch your startup or your product. So it depends for real about your ecosystem, about where you are when you are launching a startups, about the market, if it's a blue ocean or a red ocean. It depends for a lot of stuff. But you have to be prepared to face, a lot of issues in all these processes. A lot of tricks are hidden inside all these processes, different, because if you ask for public funds, the issues are the bureaucracy, for example. If you ask for private funds, the issues are the numbers you have to have before starting to talk with a private investor. If you join a crowdfunding platform, a crowdfunding process, you have to understand that maybe the people who could be interested in your product or your service couldn't understand the value of product of your service through a platform of crowdfunding. So you have to invest money in communication. You have to invest money in presentation of your product or of your service. So there are a lot of tricks, a lot of issues in all this process. But if you are prepared enough, above all, if you are really, really connected with the product or with the service you are launching, so you will be prepared for sure to face all these difficulties, all these issues, all these problems, and to also change your attitude, change your plans, doing things in the process. So that the most important thing I could say is that you haven't been, fixed in a specific path, but you have to be able to change the path why you are walking in. So this is an important thing to understand, and this is an important thing that everybody has to embrace for real. Because if you embrace this kind of of thoughts, actually, you will be able to run a startup in the best way you can. And maybe you will fail anyway, but you have you can say at the end of the process, okay, I've done my best. And this is the only thing that will allow you to, go to sleep at night and dream without nightmares all the time after the first stage of a startup. But yeah, this is an important thing. And another important thing to do, I forgot to mention it before, so I will mention now, is to have a great pitch. Now, when we talk about startups, we all have in mind the concept of elevator pitch, which is such a romantic thing to me, because the name of elevator pitch came from the elevator, actually the elevator. Because the legend is that the startups are the startupper in the US had just 30 seconds at the time of an elevator trip to convince the investor to invest in their ideas. And now if you're lucky enough, you won't have just 30 seconds, but you will have, for example, 3 minutes, and 3 minutes to synthesize an idea, a product, a service that you love are so few. So you have to understand what is the best way to introduce and present your idea and your product and your service. And to do that, you can create a great actually pitch deck to help you in the discussion of your startup. So for that, you have to remember, I think, 3 or 4 or 5 at least golden rules. First, the problem, then the ecosystem where you want to apply and the ecosystem you are related with, the solution, your team, and what you need. These 5 things has to be, a clear path. Your narrative is all inside these things. It's not outside this, it's all inside these things. And you have to be able to communicate it in the best way you can, because this is your introduction to the investors, to everybody. What you want to share with them is the problem you want to face, the solution you have imagined, how the solution meets the needs of the market. So what is the market? What is your team behind you? Because if you are alone, nobody will give you money. And then how many money you need, how much money you need. It is an important thing, because if you're not be able to understand the exact amount of money that you need to develop your idea, is an issue for real, because it means that you don't have a perspective of your market, of your idea, of your startups. And then for sure some numbers about provisional market sales and stuff like that, but that will come after. The things you have to keep in mind, and the things that you have to push in your journey are those 5.
Very, very precious suggestions. And this bullet point, each point of this list takes time and accurate research and comprehension of your project to uh, explain to others your idea. So I know that there are people that to prepare their pitch, the elevator pitch requires months to prepare. Is it right?
Yeah.
I see.
Absolutely. If you are involved in a startup competition, for example, you have 2 days. But if you are not inside this kind of, landscape, you have to take months. And you have to be able to change your pitch. As long that is, you have to be able to change your business model. The, the best way in which a startup could operate is to renewal the business model, the canvas of its product or its service once a month at least. Because as we said many times, things change fastly, and so you have to change with the things. You have to adapt yourself and your product and your service to the different scenario that just comes out month by month, year by year. So don't be fixed, don't be stuck. That is the golden rule.
Yes, absolutely. We are approaching the end of our talk. So you showed us that being a startupper is not easy at all. You need to be fast and you need to be curious. You need to be somehow courage, even if um, this is not the only elements that you need to present. But you also need to be resilient and adaptable in such a fast-paced and uncertain environment. So, do you suggest any particular habits or practices to those that want to maintain focus and motivation during this very challenging phase?
Okay, yeah, for sure. One we mentioned before: set clear goals. This is one of the most important thing you have to do actually. Uh, break them into achieve milestones. Set this kind of points of interest for you, for your team, but also for the people who deal with your startup idea, with your product, and with your service. Because if you set clear goals and you're able to monitoring it, then day by day, months by months, year by year, it will help you a lot. Actually, it will help you to discover if the path you choose at the very beginning is a good path, actually, or if you have to change it because you can basically, no. We said before, you can change is not the devil. Change is the most important thing you could do actually some way. Another one thing that I want to point it out, stay healthy, but for real, because during all these processes it's important to don't don't let your mental and physical health away. Is part of the path, is part of the journey. Your well-being is the most important thing you have to figure out during a process like that. So don't forget about this, but also, in a way, reflect regularity. I mean, take time, as we said before, to assess progress and recalibrate. As we said before, you need time to create the correct pitch, to create the correct deck, to explain the exact unique value proposition of your startup. Okay. But then you have to take time also to recalibrate because yes, market is fast, startup ecosystem is fast and changing are requesting every day. Yes. But if you don't take time in making that changes, maybe you change in the opposite way in that you should have been able to change. No, so uh, you have to, for real, you have to consider yourself sometime. You don't have to be no in a bad rush mood, no, because it's difficult to work when you have deadlines minutes by minutes or stuff like that. So you have to take time and you have to uh, reflect a lot before take a strong decision of yours for your startup and your product or your service.
Thank you, Michele. I don't know if you have any point that you want to suggest to our wannabe startupper or something that we didn't discuss during our interview. Any other elements that is important to keep in mind during this challenging approach to business making?
Well, one thing that is very, very important that you don't have to forget is to believe in yourself. Believe in yourself, but for real, not just saying that and then, okay, yes, but maybe I'm wrong, maybe. Oh, believe in yourself because trying is the only way you can verify if you can verify if what you had inside your mind is actually something that could be, uh, could take place outside of it. So the only thing you have to do is try, and to try, you have to believe in yourself. You have to be confident, and but you have also to be able to understand that you are not alone in the process, that you couldn't be alone in the process, and that's it. So I said the important thing before: stay healthy, and I will say it again because it's something that in the past 10 or 15 years is something that just didn't have that importance in the startup ecosystem, and the results are in front of us. Many people who run a startups, many people who run a business after a while just get out of their mind, had some problems, had some physical problems for real because they don't sleep. I don't like that, that narrative. If the startupper who has to sleep just 4 hours a day, no, you don't have to. You don't have to. You have to be focused when you worked. Yes, that's for sure. When you work, you have to be focused. But you could work 8 hours per day. You could work 8 hours per day with focus, but 8 hours per day. So stay healthy, take care of yourself, believe in yourself, believe in your team, and be able to change. Be able to change. Those are for me the most important things. I am so lucky because I had the chance in my professional life to work with ideas of people and with people who has ideas. And this is something that to me is it hasn't a price actually. It's something so special, and I'm so grateful for that. And I also ran my startups, I also ran my project. And the suggestion I could give to the others is to just keep going, adapt yourself, don't stay fixed in a certain point, just go on and be prepared to change. But yeah, do it in a healthy way, please.
For sure. Thank you so much, Michele. We wish good luck to all of our audience and to the community that want to start their own startup. Take care.
Absolutely.
And thank you again, Michele, for your inspiring words and your valuable insights.
Thank you too. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Green Fashion Dialogues. We hope you will find our discussion insightful and inspiring. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to our podcast and leave us a review. You can also follow the Stars Project on social media to stay updated on our latest initiatives and events. Remember, together we can make fashion more sustainable and inclusive. Until next time, I'm Simona Vettore, and this has been Green Fashion Dialogues.